The battlefield smelled like burning metal and blood. Explosions shook the sky. Screams echoed from all sides. Captain Mark Ryland crouched behind a half-destroyed wall, gripping his rifle, heart pounding like a drum. He wasn't supposed to be here, not alone. The rest of his unit had been wiped out in the last ambush. The only reason he was still alive was because of her. Her name was Sira. No rank, no past. Just a file that said Experimental Combat Unit, non-human. She wasn't just alien. She was terrifying. Mark had seen her fight. She moved like a ghost, silent, deadly, fast. Her skin shimmered in the heat, dark blue with silver marks that pulsed like veins. Her eyes were glowing slits, and her claws sliced through armor like butter. But what scared him the most? She never spoke. Not once. And yet, she never left his side. The mission was simple. Scout the ruins. Secure the intel. Get out. But now it was only the two of them. A human captain and an alien weapon. Walking side by side through smoke and death, Mark peeked around the corner. A pair of enemy drones hovered in the rubble ahead, scanning. One beeped. He froze, then dash, whoosh. Sira darted forward, too fast too. Follow. She leaped, spun midair, and drove both claws through the drones in one motion. They sparked, twitched, and died. Mark exhaled. Remind me not to get on your bad side. She didn't reply. Just stared at the broken machines, breathing heavy. Then slowly, she turned to him, manned her expression. Shifted, like fear. Why? Mark didn't understand. She looked at him like she had done something wrong. Later, as they moved deeper into the ruins, Mark tried to talk. You don't have to keep saving me, you know? I can handle myself. Sira kept walking. I'm not the enemy, he added. We're on the same side now. She stopped. For the first time, she looked at him directly. Her voice was soft, shaky, and strange. You shouldn't. Trust me. Blinked? Why not? She lowered her head. Because I was made to kill humans. Mark's stomach tightened. She wasn't just an alien warrior. She was a weapon built by someone to destroy people like him. Maybe she had killed dozens of soldiers before. Maybe she had only pretended to be helping him, but something about her voice, the way she said it, didn't sound like a threat. It sounded like guilt. He nodded slowly. But you didn't kill me. She looked away. Not yet. The night, they found shelter inside a broken bunker. Mark started a small fire from leftover wiring and chemicals. It smelled awful, but it gave heat and light. Sira sat near the wall. Away from him, her arms wrapped around her knees. Mark studied her from across the room. Her body was covered in scars. Old ones, burn marks, slash wounds. Tiny holes like she'd been shot many times and stitched back up. What happened to you? He asked quietly. She didn't answer, but her hands trembled. Then came the silence. A silence heavy with unspoken stories. Mark finally spoke. My brother died in the first wave of this war. That's why I joined. She looked up, curious. I used to think all aliens were monsters, he continued. But now, he looked at her, eyes soft. I don't know what to think anymore. Sira's eyes met his dots slowly. She whispered, I used to be locked in a lab. They made me fight. Again and again. No sleep, no food. Just battle. I didn't even know the war ended. Mark's breath caught. She wasn't a warrior. She was a prisoner. A survivor. A loud sound echoed outside, metal shifting. Mark stood quickly, grabbing his weapon. Sira was already crouched, eyes glowing. They moved in. Sync, no words. Just instinct. Outside, a damaged enemy mech crawled through rubble. Its scanner beeped red. Mark took aim, but the mech spotted him first. A beam of red light flashed toward him until Sira jumped in front of him, took the hit on her shoulder, and screamed. The mech recharged. Mark didn't hesitate. He ran forward, slid under the mech, and tossed a grenade into its underbelly. Boom. Fire and smoke swallowed the machine. When the smoke cleared, Mark found Sira leaning against a wall, clutching her wound. Purple blood dripped down her arm. He rushed to her. "You idiot! Why did you jump in front of me?" She didn't answer. Instead, she reached out just barely and touched his face. "Because I didn't want to lose my partner." Then, eyes rolled back, and she collapsed into his arms. The fire had died. Cold wind whistled through the cracked walls of the ruined bunker. Mark sat beside the alien girl, watching her breathe. Her skin, blue and cracked with glowing lines, was covered in dried blood. His jacket, now tied around her shoulder, soaked up more of it. She had saved his life again. He still didn't understand why. Mark had seen warriors take hits for brothers, commanders, lovers, but Sira, she barely even spoke to him. Why jump? In front of a killing blast, a small groan escaped her lips. Her fingers twitched. Mark leaned closer. Sira, her eyes opened slowly, golden, faintly glowing, filled with pain and fear. "You're okay," Mark said softly. "You're safe now." She blinked. Her breathing quickened. Then, suddenly, her arm moved quick, and Trained Hand grabbed Mark's gun from his side. Before he could react, she pointed it at herself. Mark froze. "Sira, what are you doing?" She didn't answer. Her hands shook. Her lips trembled. Her finger hovered over the trigger. "I should not have saved you," she whispered. "That's not what I was made to do." Mark slowly raised his hands. "Put it down." "No," she said. "I don't want to hurt you, but don't know how long I can resist it. The programming, the training, it's inside me like a shadow." Tears formed in the corners of her glowing eyes. One rolled down her cheek. It sparkled like crystal. Mark had never seen her cry. Never thought she could cry. "I killed too many," she whispered. "Human, alien, anyone they ordered. But I didn't care then. I didn't feel, and now." Mark asked gently. Sira's hands trembled harder. "Now I feel everything, and it's too much." Mark stepped closer, slowly. "You saved me. Because you chose to," he said. "Not because someone told you to. That means you're free, Sira. You're more than just a weapon." She looked at him, her eyes searching his. "But what if the weapon inside wakes up again?" she whispered. "Then I'll stop you," he said. She gave a broken laugh. "You can't stop me, human." Mark smirked. "Try me." Silence fell again. Finally, she lowered the gun. Mark took it gently from her fingers and tossed it aside. She curled up like a child, pressing her knees to her chest. Her glowing lines dimmed to a soft pulse. "Sleep," Mark said. "I'll keep watch." She shook her head. "I don't sleep." "Then rest your eyes." She did, for the first time. Since he'd met her, she rested. Hours later, outside the bunker, a drone hovered high above. A red light blinked far away in a command room. General Voss of the Earth's Coalition watched the feed. "Zoom on the target," he ordered. The screen showed Sira lying against Mark. "She's still alive?" Officer asked. Voss narrowed his eyes. "And now she's protecting one of our own." Another officer added, "Sir, the last data reports she's a failed hybrid, bioweapon, rogue." Voss stood, arms behind his back. "Put out the order," he said coldly. "If she survives this mission, terminate her." Back in the bunker, Mark and Sarah were packing supplies. The air between them was different now. Quieter. Closer. Sarah adjusted her armor. Straps with difficulty, her wound not fully healed. Mark stepped behind her. "Let me help." She flinched. "I won't touch if you don't want me to," he said calmly. After a moment, she nodded once. He fastened the backstrap gently. She didn't speak, but she didn't pull away either. Then she whispered, "Your hands are warm." Mark smiled faintly. "That's the human way. We give warmth, not orders." She paused, then quietly asked, "Why?" "Because we're not machines," he said, "and neither are you." Outside, they followed a ruined path through the dead city. Rusted steel, shattered glass, crumbling statues. Sierra paused by a collapsed building. Her eyes scanned the walls then. Stopped at a strange symbol etched into stone. Mark asked, "What is it?" She traced the mark with her claw. "My people's home symbol. This was once one of our cities, before the war." Mark's stomach turned. "This place?" "Yes," she said, voice distant. "We lived underground, peaceful. Then humans came with fire." Mark looked away. "We were told your kind attacked first." "We didn't," she said. "But once blood falls, it doesn't matter who started it. It just keeps falling." Suddenly, a noise echoed nearby, metal scraping. Sierra turned sharply. Movement. They ducked behind rubble. 2 human soldiers moved ahead, scanning with visors. Mark tensed. "Friendly." Sierra shook her head. "No insignia, no signal. Black Ops unit." Mark cursed under his breath. "They're not here to rescue us." Sierra's claws extended. Her eyes narrowed. "You fight," she said, "or you run." Mark grinned. "We're partners now, right?" Glanced at him, a strange light in her eyes. "Right?" she said. They attacked fast and low. Sierra moved like wind slashing, dodging. Mark backed her up with sniper shots, covering her blind spots. Together, think they were unstoppable. They weren't just surviving. They were fighting as one. After the last soldier fell, Mark and Sarah stood back to back, breathing hard. She looked at him, her voice low. "You didn't hesitate to fight your own." "You didn't hesitate to fight beside me," he replied. She looked down, then back up. "Maybe," she whispered, "I was made to kill humans, but now I'll kill for one." Placed a hand on her shoulder, not as a commander, but as a partner. The air stank of oil and blood. Mark and Sierra walked through a broken steel corridor deep beneath the city ruins. Each step echoed like a warning. The lights flickered, half-dead systems still breathing after years of war. They had found the entrance to a hidden enemy base, or what was left of it. "This used to be a research hub," Mark said softly, checking his rifle. "Earthside scientists ran black experiments down here." Sierra nodded once. "I know. I was made in one just like it." Her voice was calm, but her body trembled slightly. Mark noticed but said nothing. They moved room by room carefully, quietly. Dust-covered consoles and chairs. Burned files lay scattered like forgotten memories. Strange cages lined one hallway, some shattered, some still sealed shut. Sierra stopped at one. Inside, chained to the floor, was a skeleton with claws and glowing bones. Like hers, she didn't speak. Just knelt and touched the cracked glass. Mark stood behind her, unsure what to say. Finally, she whispered, "She was the first. I saw them test on her before it was my turn." Mark felt his chest tighten. "You were just a child." "No," Sierra replied. "I was nothing. I became a child only after meeting you." A loud clang interrupted them. Both turned. Movement. Mark raised his rifle. Sierra's claws extended. A sentry bot dropped from the ceiling, rusted, but still deadly. Its red eyes locked on Sierra. "Target. Bioweapon priority level red. Sira growled, ready to charge, but the bot fired first. Crack. The bullet flew straight toward her chest, and Mark moved. Without thinking, he jumped in front of her. The shot hit his side. Sira screamed. It was the first time Mark ever heard her scream like that, wild, broken, desperate. He collapsed to the ground, gripping his bleeding side. The bot recharged to fire again. Sira moved with rage, no hesitation. She leaped, tore through its plating with claws glowing white-hot, and ripped its head off in a blast of sparks. When the bot dropped, she didn't even look back. She fell to her knees beside Mark. "Why?" she shouted, shaking. "Why did you do that?" Mark grinned weakly. "Because I didn't want to lose my partner." She held him carefully. Her hands were shaking so bad she could barely press the med gel into his wound. "I'm not worth saving," she whispered. "Not me." Mark's voice was weak but steady. "You were never a weapon to me, Sira." "You're wrong," she said, teeth clenched. "You think kindness can erase what I am. It's made to end lives. But you saved mine," he said. Twice now, she looked at him, eyes wide and filled with tears. Her breath was shallow. "I couldn't move," she said. "When the shot fired, I froze again." Mark reached up and touched her cheek. "But when I fell, you moved. You came back." She closed her eyes, pressing her face into his palm. "I don't understand what's happening to me," she whispered. "Every day I feel more." Mark lost consciousness minutes later. The med gel slowed the bleeding, but not enough. They were still trapped underground. No signal. No rescue. Sira carried him in her arms through dark hallways, searching for anything to save him. She found a sealed door, using a hacked code she remembered from her training. She forced it open. Inside was a dimly lit lab still, powered by emergency cells. She placed him gently on the metal table. Then she looked around and found the one thing she never thought she'd use again, a genetic recoding chamber. She remembered this room, not exactly, but it looked like the one where they changed her years ago. The needles, the lights, the pain. She stared at the control panel. Blood matching, she read. She could use her own enhanced blood to boost his recovery, but the side effects were unknown. She hesitated, then looked back at Mark, pale, breathing shallow. No more hesitation. She placed her arm, key, into the injector port. The machine hissed. Her blood was drawn, the chamber filled with light. She whispered, "Let me be useful." For the right reason. Mark woke up hours later. His body ached, but he could breathe again. He looked up and saw Sira leaning against the wall, breathing hard. Her glowing lines had faded. She looked weaker. "What did you do?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "I gave you the part of me they forced into me," she said. "Now it's yours too." Mark sat up. "You used your blood." She nodded. "But that could, I know." Silence hung between them. Then she added, "If I lose myself, promise you'll end me before I hurt you." Mark stared at her, then pulled her into a hug. "I'm not losing you," he whispered. "Not now. Not ever." Behind them, the lab lights began to fail. A message blinked on the wall screen. "Unauthorized DNA merge. Detected. Subject status unstable." Sira's eyes flickered with confusion. Mark didn't see it, but she did, and she didn't know what it meant. Not yet, but something inside her had changed again. Something she couldn't control. Asterisk. The surface air hit them like a slap, hot, dry, and dust-filled. Mark shielded his eyes as he stepped out of the ruined bunker, his body still aching. But he could move again, breathe again. Sira's blood had done that. Saved him, but at what cost? He turned back to her. She was standing still at the entrance, blinking hard. Our skin was pale, her breathing uneven. The silver lines that once glowed along her arms and neck had turned a faint blue-gray. Mark stepped toward her. "You okay?" She didn't answer. "Sira." She finally looked at him, but her gaze was wrong. Empty. Cold. For just a second. Then it softened. I'm fine." He didn't believe her, but he let it go for now. They followed a narrow ridge down into a canyon. Their orders were simple. Reach the extraction point at the far base before sundown. But their radios were dead. Their supplies low, and someone had marked Sira as a target. Mark could feel it in the back of his neck. Like being watched by ghosts, they walked in silence for a long time. Then Sira spoke suddenly. "Do you hear that?" Mark paused. He listened. Nothing at first. Then metal shifting. Low hums, heavy boots. To many, Mark pulled her behind a boulder. "Recon drones." "No," Sira said, her claws flexing. "Soldiers, 3 squads. There, spreading out, surrounding." Mark's stomach dropped. "They're not with our command, are they?" Sira shook her head slowly. "They're here for me." The soldiers approached fast. Their armor was black and unmarked. Their faces covered. Standard kill team. One of them held a device scanning red. Confirmed, bioweapon, active. Human presence, irrelevant. Orders, another asked. Kill both. No witnesses. Mark stepped forward. Gun raised. "You don't want to do this." The lead soldier replied. "She's unstable. Contaminated." "You're compromised." "This isn't personal, Captain. It's protocol." Mark shouted, "She saved my life. She's more human than half of you." They ignored him. Guns clicked. Aimed. Sira stepped out from behind the boulders, lowly, calmly. Mark tried to stop her. "Don't," but she raised her hand gently. "Let me." The wind grew still. The ground seemed too quiet. Then something changed. Sira's eyes flared with light. Her body pulsed like a wave of energy ran through her veins. The soldiers noticed too. One stuttered. "What the hell?" Before he finished, Sira moved. She didn't blink, didn't breathe. Just moved fast, too fast. She tore through the first squad like a silent storm, bones snapping, armor shredding. Mark shouted after her, "Sira, stop." But she didn't hear him, didn't respond. She roared. And it wasn't a scream of fear, it was a beast's cry. The last 2 soldiers tried to run. Sira slammed one against the canyon wall so hard the rock cracked. The other she pinned down, claws raised. Mark ran to her, panting, gun forgotten. "Sira, no." She froze mid-motion. Claws inches from the man's face. Her body trembled. Her breathing was wild. Then her eyes turned toward Mark. And for one terrible second, they were not hers, cold, silver, blank. Mark stepped closer. "Look at me. It's me." She blinked rapidly, like fighting. Something inside then suddenly dropped the soldier and stumbled back. Her knees hit the dirt. She shook her head violently. "No, no, no." I felt it again. I felt nothing. Mark crouched beside her. "It's okay. No." She snapped. "I could have killed you next." Mark grabbed her face gently, forcing her to look into his eyes. "You didn't." Tears welled up in her eyes. "You should have run from me." "I'd rather die than leave you alone like that," Mark said. "I trust you even if you can't trust yourself right now." Later, they buried the soldiers under a rock. Slide Suro stood over the graves, silent. "They wouldn't have stopped," she whispered, "even if I begged." "I know," Mark replied. "But I saw something in you back there." She looked at him. "What? Control?" he said. "You were right at the edge. But you didn't fall. She shook her head. Not this time. But what about next? Mark reached out, took her hand. Then I'll be there too. On that edge. That night, they found an abandoned outpost, a broken shelter with a roof and a solar heater still working. Mark lay back on a cot, eyes closed. His body was recovering faster than expected. Too fast. He opened his eyes, staring at his palm. A faint silver glow pulsed under his skin. Sierra noticed. She stepped closer, kneeling beside him. "It's happening," she said softly. "Your body. It's changing? What does it mean?" She looked away. "It means we're connected now. You're becoming something between human and me." Mark stared at her, quiet. "Do you regret it?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "But you need to promise me something." She tilted her head. "If I ever lose control, you stop me." Sierra swallowed hard, then nodded. "Only if you promise the same." He held out his hand. She took it. A human and a weapon. Both unstable. Both scared, but still fighting together. The outpost creaked under the wind. It had no doors, no defenses. Just cracked walls, an old solar heater, and 2 rusty cots. Mark had patched one cot for himself. He offered the other to Sarah. But she didn't even glance at it. "I'll stay." "By the door," she said quietly. "You don't have to." "I do." Mark frowned. "Because of me." Sierra nodded. "You carry my blood now." "I don't know what that will do to you or me." She curled up in the corner beside the door, her back against the cold wall. Her eyes never closed. She didn't sleep. Mark lay awake longer than he wanted to. His body felt different. His muscles were tighter. His hearing sharper. He could hear dust falling from cracks in the ceiling. He could hear Sierra's heartbeat from across the room, steady, quiet. Almost mechanical, the silver glow under his skin hadn't faded. He stared at it, his chest tight with questions. What was he becoming? Would he still be human by the end of this? Or something else? Around midnight, he sat up. "Sierra," he called softly. She didn't answer, but he knew she heard. "Why do you keep staying away from me?" She stayed still for a long time, then said, "Because if I get close, I might not let go." Mark didn't expect that. "You mean, emotionally?" She shook her head. "No, physically." Her voice dropped lower, almost a whisper. "My kind were made for war. But they altered us, gave us instincts, pair bonding, reactions to touch. When I'm near someone I care about, I lose control of those instincts." Mark's mouth went dry. "You care about me?" She looked up finally, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "I don't know what to call it, but yes." Silence stretched between them, heavy and soft. Then Mark said, "I trust you. Even if you don't trust yourself yet, you shouldn't." She replied, "You saw what I did yesterday. I wasn't myself, but you came back." She hugged her knees tighter. "Only because you pulled me back." Mark stood slowly and crossed the room. He knelt in front of her. "You're not a weapon anymore, Sierra. You have a choice now." She looked up at him, pain in her eyes. "Then why do I feel like the weapon is still waiting inside me, ready to wake up?" Suddenly, her hand snapped out and grabbed his wrist. Mark TENSED. Her eyes were wide. Her claws touched his skin but didn't cut. "I can hear your blood," she whispered. "It sounds like mine." Mark didn't pull away. "Is that bad?" She closed her eyes. "It's dangerous. The more we're together, the more I feel connected." Mark gently placed his free hand over hers. "Maybe that connection is what keeps us both human." Before she could answer, a sharp noise outside made them freeze. Click, crack. A metal footstep. Mark grabbed his rifle. Sierra was already moving silent and fast, low to the floor like a predator. They both crouched behind the shattered wall. A single drone floated past the entrance. Not just any drone. It bore the mark of Earth's secret command. "Recon scan," Sarah whispered. "They've tracked us." Mark cursed under his breath. "They're not giving up, are they?" "No. And they won't come alone next time." After the drone passed, they didn't go back to resting. Sira remained by the entrance. Scanning the shadows with glowing eyes, Mark sat beside her, rifle in hand. "Sierra. If this ends badly, I just want you to know something." She turned toward him. "You're not just a combat partner," he said. "You're the only person who's ever stood by me when things fell apart. You're important." Her face softened. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something back, but then she looked away and whispered, "Don't say things like that." "Why not?" "Because it makes me want to stay. And I don't think I deserve to." Hours passed. Dawn came, slow and gray. The sun rose behind thick clouds, casting long shadows through the broken structure. Sierra stood quietly, her body still like stone. She hadn't slept, not even blinked much. Mark stepped outside, feeling the heat of the sun on his face. She followed him. He turned toward her, smiling. "I know you don't like it, but you should rest soon. Even just for an hour." Sierra didn't reply. Instead, she looked at his face, then slowly stepped forward. For the first time, she rested her forehead gently against his chest. Mark froze but didn't pull away. "You're warm," she murmured. "You always say that, because it's true." Then she stepped back. A strange tension passed between them, like something had almost happened, but didn't. And maybe that was enough for now. Mark checked their gear. "We move in 1 hour. Next stop is the signal tower. If we can reach it, maybe we can send a message to someone who actually gives a damn." Sierra nodded. "I'll be ready." Mark paused at the door. "You're not alone, Sierra." She nodded again, but her eyes said something else, something she didn't want him to see, something she feared would one day destroy them both. The signal tower stood like a broken spear in the desert. Wires hung from its metal frame. The top antenna tilted sideways. Wind whistled through shattered panels. Somewhere below, power still HUMMED. Mark and Sierra approached from the south, moving fast through dead terrain. Their footsteps kicked up dust and shattered glass. "This is our best shot," Mark said. "If it still works, we can send a coded distress ping. Someone loyal might answer." Sierra stayed quiet. Mark glanced at her. "Something wrong?" She was pale again, her silver lines dim, her movements slow. He stopped. "Hey, you okay?" She looked at him for a long second, then whispered, "They're close. I can feel them." Mark scanned the horizon. "The Black Ops team," she nodded. "3 units, different directions, they'll trap us." Mark gripped his rifle tighter. "We don't run," he said. "We call for help, and we fight if we have to." Sierra didn't argue, but her expression said she wasn't sure that would be enough. Inside the tower, the walls were scorched. Panels buzzed weakly. A dead soldier's skeleton slumped near a comms chair, still clutching a cracked datapad. Mark wiped the dust from the console. "Help me power this up." Sierra placed her hand against a side panel. Her body hummed faintly. The screen flickered. The signal core glowed. Mark quickly typed a coded message. "Capt. Rylan alive. BIO weapon ally. Under threat, need extraction. Trust nitrogen monoxide command." He hit send. A small green light blinked. "Dat. Ping received. Response in 2 minutes." Mark leaned back. "We did it." But Sierra stepped away slowly. Her body was shaking, her claws clenched. Someone's already here. She whispered. The door slammed open. Black-armored soldiers stormed in. They surrounded them within seconds, guns raised. Visors glowing red dot. Mark raised his hands. We just sent a distress. The lead officer cut him off. We got it. That's why we're here. Mark frowned. You responded to our message? The officer lowered his weapon. Commander Thorne himself sent us. Mark's face darkened. Thorne. The same one who ordered her termination. Yes, the officer said flatly. And we're here to carry it out. Mark stepped in. Front of Sarah, you're going to have to shoot through me. The officer didn't flinch. That was part of the order. Sarah gently touched Mark's arm. Then, to his shock, she stepped forward and knelt before the officer. I surrender, she said. Mark's voice broke. Sarah, what are you? She didn't look at him. Her voice was calm. If my life keeps you safe, it's worth it. The officer paused, confused. You're not resisting? No. Mark pushed forward. No, no way. You don't give up, Sarah whispered. If I resist, the part of me I've been holding back will break free. I don't know who I'll become. Mark looked into her eyes. They were filled with fear, not for herself, for him. The officer pulled a restraint, cuff from his belt, but before he could reach her, something strange happened. The tower console beeped again. Incoming transmission. Unauthorized. Source command override. Then a voice played deep, cold, and familiar. This is Commander Thorne. You are hereby ordered to terminate Bioweapon Unit X-92 immediately. If the human captain resists, terminate him too. Mark stared at the screen. Sarah's eyes slowly closed. Then, second voice crackled over the speaker. Female.com. Override accepted. Order denied. Mark blinked. Who? The soldiers froze. A face appeared on the screen. Alien, tall, elegant, golden skin. Silver eyes like Sarah's. She stared into the camera. My name is High Matron Rylessa of the Vyari Corps. That girl is no longer property of Earth's command. She is under the protection of the Vyari royal line. Any attempt to harm her will be considered an act of war. The entire room fell silent. The lead soldier slowly lowered his gun. Is this real? Mark turned to Sarah, stunned. You never told me. Sarah opened her eyes. She was my mother, she whispered. Before I was taken, Mark's heart skipped. You're royal. She nodded. They erased my memory, buried my heritage. But the blood you carry now, my blood, woke something, and they found me. The soldiers backed away slowly. Mark helped her to her feet. You didn't surrender. You were waiting for them. No, Sarah said. I was ready to die, but they came anyway. Outside, the sky rumbled. A ship descended, sleek, silver, humming with energy as it landed. Blue-cloaked Vyari guards stepped out. The human soldiers lowered their heads. Mark stepped closer to Sarah. What happens now? She looked at him, and for the first time, she looked scared of leaving. I don't know, she whispered. I'm not just a soldier anymore. You're a princess, he said with a smile. She smirked weakly. Liked it better when I was just your combat partner. He reached out. She took his hand. As the guards approached, one of them bowed before Sarah. Your Highness, the matron awaits. Mark tried to step away, but Sarah gripped his hand tighter, then looked at the guard and said, He comes with me. The Vyari starship floated above Earth's broken sky like a silver moon, silent, sleek, and glowing with energy far beyond human tech. Mark stood at the ramp, eyes wide as guards in blue armor saluted Sarah with glowing staffs. They bowed low, calling her princess heir. Daughter returned. But she didn't look proud. She looked lost. Inside the ship, crystal walls pulsed with soft blue light. The floors hummed beneath their boots. Sira walked beside Mark, her steps unsure. Your mother's here? Akea nodded. Sira nodded. Matron Rylessa. She's the one who gave me life, and then lost me to Earth's war machines. Mark gently took her hand. You ready? I don't know, she said. I'm scared she won't see me. As me. Mark smiled. Then, I'll remind her. In the throne chamber, the matron stood tall in robes of silver and violet. Her skin shimmered gold. Her long hair braided with crystal threads. Her eyes, Sira's eyes, locked onto her daughter. Sira, she said softly. Sira didn't move. Mark stepped back, unsure what to do. But the matron crossed the distance herself and wrapped Sira in her arms. My child, you've returned. Mark watched the reunion in silence. For the first time, he wondered, where does he belong in all this? He was just a soldier. She was royalty. After the reunion, Rylessa turned to Mark. You carry my daughter's blood, she said. You saved her, fought beside her, and calmed the monster she believed she was. Mark lowered his eyes. She saved me too, ma'am. You're not just bonded, Rylessa said. You are now linked. Her life echoes in you. Your strength fuels hers. It's rare and dangerous. Mark looked at Sarah. We didn't plan this. I know, Rylessa said gently. But now, you both must decide something. She waved her hand. A screen appeared, showing a military lab hidden deep on Earth. Inside it, glowing tubes held others like Sarah. Children, some younger, some unconscious. Some already dying. Rylessa's face hardened. These are the last of the bioweapons. Earth Command never stopped. They took my daughter and kept building more. Sira clenched her fists. Mark stepped forward. We can stop them. Rylessa nodded. The Viari will not start a war, but we will support a choice. Later that night, Mark stood with Sira on the observation deck. Below them, Earth spun in silence. He finally asked the question in his heart. If you stay with them, what happens to us? Sira stared out the window. I get a throne, a crown, a war council. And if you come back with me, I get chased, hunted, feared. Mark gave a soft laugh. So, easy choice. She looked at him. I'd choose the fire if you were there. The next morning, they suited up. The matron watched them from the hangar, silent. Sira wore new armor Viari combat tech, sharp and sleek. Mark wore his old battle gear, patched and cracked but still his. 2 worlds. One mission, the dropship launched, their destination, the hidden Earth Command Lab. It was time to finish what they started. Inside the base, chaos unfolded quickly. Sira burst through the walls like a storm. Her claws glowed silver blue, now refined by Viari upgrades. Mark covered her from the rear, shooting down guards, dodging drones, hacking doors. They moved like one, each step synchronized, each strike paired. One unit, in the final room, a row of pods hissed open. Half-grown biosoldiers stared at them, frightened, confused, half-human, half-alien. Sira stepped forward. They tensed, ready to fight, but she knelt and whispered in their language, "You're free." The youngest of them ran to her. The others followed. Mark watched it unfold. This was no longer a rescue mission. It was a new beginning as alarms blared. Earth Command officers fled. A message from Rylessa crackled into Mark's earpiece. The galaxy will now know what Earth did. You exposed them. The Council will act. Sira approached Mark slowly. Her armor flickered, claws retracted. She looked calm. I'm done fighting, she whispered. He smiled. Then what now? She touched his chest right over the place his blood first glowed from her gift. I stay where my life began again. With me. She nodded. Always. Weeks later, the war labs were shut down. Earth Command was fractured. Vieri guards kept the peace, and in the ruins of a new world rising from ashes, a small outpost stood 2 chairs, one human rifle on the wall, one alien claw blade, hanging beside it, and in the center a soldier and an alien girl. No longer enemies. No longer weapons, just partners forever.